The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be. I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as you know, one of my favorite teachers in the classroom, and one who I just absolutely adore having and as a friend, and call him on when I need help, he is there. And I know that if he ever needs me, he will call on me, and he knows I'm here for him too, is Dr. Lee Cowden. Dr. Lee Cowden, as you know, we did the 12-week course. It's the M3 Detox, the mold, metals, and microbes detoxification. It was an experience that we all shared together, still available at whenyouneedafriend.com if you would like to get your own copy of it. And he has been waking not only me up, but also doctors who are integrative, holistic, functional, MDs, allopathics, teaching them how to be more of natural and functional and all those things that we want. Because if the body is treated with the love and respect that it needs, it will heal. And so one of the things that Dr. Lee Cowden said in the classroom a while ago, and it pierced my heart, is a lot of people spend a lot of money on their body. They take medications, they alter the way it looks, they do everything they can with medications or with treatments or whatever for the body. But if they were to just focus on the spirit and the mind, the body would heal naturally. And it can be expensive just to focus on the body. But when you put it all together, that spirit, mind, and body approach, that's where the magic begins. So today, Dr. Lee Cowden is back, and we're going to be talking about how emotions play an important role, a key role in disease. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Lee Cowden is here to do just that. Come out, Dr. Cowden, wherever you are. There he is. And I've been with Claire for like 2 weeks in a row. And so if I sound a little childish today, just know it's because of her. She's like embedded in my brain right now. So thank you so much, Dr. Cowden, for coming onto the classroom and sharing your wisdom like you always do. Thank you.
Yeah, great to be on with you again.
Yes. And for those of you who have any questions for Dr. Lee, make sure you type in a Q and write your question down. And I will get to it before we end the class today. So Dr. Lee, I know that emotions are so important. And I spend a lot of time coaching people about releasing and getting rid of traumas, and not getting rid of traumas, releasing the pain of trauma. But many people think that when I say that, I'm saying that the problem is in the head. I'm not saying that at all. The problem existed, but it has manifested into the body. And so share a little bit about why it is that people dismiss emotions so quickly.
Well, the Chinese figured out probably several hundred years ago that whenever you have an unresolved emotion, it builds up in a particular organ. So If the emotion is anger, it's going to build up primarily in your liver and gallbladder and bile ducts. If it's fear, it's going to build up in your kidneys and urinary bladder. If it's sadness, it's going to build up in your colon or your pancreas and so on. And when that emotion builds up in that organ, we call that cellular memory. Okay. And when you have an unresolved emotion in an organ, it acts like a magnet to attract physical toxins from the environment. So the physical toxins that we're all getting exposed to every day could go into any organ that it wanted to, but it's going to go most into the organ that has unresolved emotions. And when the toxins build up in that organ, it creates an environment that makes it easy for microbes to grow and hard for your immune system to work. And all of a sudden, you've got a big load of microbes in that organ also. And then the microbes attract white blood cells. The white blood cells release chemical messengers called cytokines, and the cytokines cause inflammation. Inflammation then causes a variety of symptoms, including pain. So that's the sequence that you go through. And so I've said for, 20 years that there's a hierarchy of healing. And, you can, if you have a physical problem, you can work at it on a physical level, but it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. And if you stop treatment prematurely, you have a high probability of recurrence. But if you go to the next level up, which is the mental emotional level, it's going to take less time, less money, less energy, less effort to resolve that level and also the physical level that's connected to it. And if you go all the way to the top level, which is the spiritual level, that's the least amount of time, money, energy, effort, and the lowest probability of recurrence. So you can work on, your health wherever you want to, but it's a lot wiser to work higher up in the hierarchy than lower down in the hierarchy.
That makes sense. It makes sense to me. However, when somebody's hearing this for the first time, they're probably going to go, okay, well, how do I know how to work? What are the key things that I need to do spiritually? What are the key things that I need to do emotionally, mentally? Because if the cell has the memory, how do I take it from the cell and release it from the body?
Yeah, well, there's a variety of tools to get the emotions out. And by the way, the most important emotions are not those that we're consciously aware of. The ones that are most important are the ones that are subconscious, below our conscious recognition. So that becomes a little more challenging to get out.
Yeah.
Okay. But, my friend, Dr. Bradley Nelson, wrote a book called Emotion Code. And, it's about a $12 or $15 book. You can buy the book, read the book, understand the principles there, learn a little bit about muscle testing, and actually start getting at some of the subconscious emotional issues. There you go. Mm-hmm. Subconscious emotional issues that are affecting your health. And when you clear those subconscious emotional issues out, then the physical toxins get released from the tissues where those emotions and physical toxins are trapped, and then the microbes start leaving, and then the white blood cells no longer release cytokines. Then the inflammation calms down and all the symptoms go away. So that's a much more logical way to do it. And there's other tools that can get at the subconscious emotions. I like the EVOX really a lot. That's EVOX is a software produced by the Zyto Corporation out of Salt Lake City, Utah area. And with that type of software, the person that's wanting to resolve emotions will speak into a microphone like I am doing right now, any word that they want to repeatedly for about 15 seconds while they have their eyes closed, visualizing that person or that event that they're speaking about. Okay. So if you're going to work on mom stuff, you close your eyes, you see her face, how she appeared to you at the youngest age that you can remember her, and you say mama, maybe you called her initially, and then after you see her a little bit older, and maybe you say mom, and then a little bit older, and you say mother, whatever. But you keep saying some voice has to come out of you, because the energies of the emotions are embedded in your whole body, and when you speak, the vibration of those emotions come out in your voice. Mm-hmm. And so after speaking for just 15 seconds while you're visualizing with your eyes closed, you see displayed on the computer screen all the emotions and all the beliefs that are attached to that person or that event with about a 95% predictive accuracy. And so then the machine takes your own voice and makes it into a homeopathic-like energy that it delivers back to you through a hand electrode that you have your hand on while you're listening to pleasant instrumental music for another 2 minutes. And so after less than 3 minutes time, you've resolved a lot of the emotions related to that person or that event.
Right then in that one session?
In one session.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, Dr. Jen and I are planning on doing an EVOX class. We did an AO scan first. We did the AO scan, which is just an analysis of my voice and a picture of my face. And then we did a whole class on that one. But I think that the EVOX, I want to try the EVOX because that sounds a lot more, it's like a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, it's like you have
It's a little more in depth, yeah. But again, as I said, the most important emotions that affect your physical health are the emotions that you picked up either in early childhood before you have the ability to process and release emotions, or even more importantly, the emotions that you picked up from mom and dad while you were in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so the emotions that you pick up in the womb are not just mom and dad's emotions. It's also the emotions of the grandparents, and sometimes the great grandparents, and sometimes the great great grandparents. And so what I tell people is that if they have an emotion that's affecting their physical health and they go to the standard psychologist and the person that's trying to get the help is 50 years old, they're figuratively in the 50th floor of their multi-story building. Okay. And the psychologist helps them to rearrange the furniture on the 50th floor. Okay. But the building is swaying like this, just about to fall over. Okay. And rearranging the furniture really doesn't do much for that. but if they go down to the first floor, which is the first year of their life, and resolve the emotions that they picked up during the first year of their life, then the building becomes a little bit more stable. If they'll go to the basement, which is the emotions related to mom and dad, then the building becomes a lot more stable. If they go to the sub-basement, which is the emotions related to the grandparents, then it becomes even more stable. And so pretty soon the building's no longer swaying like this, and they're still up on the 50th floor. And then the psychologist can help them to rearrange the furniture on that floor, and it's beneficial at that point.
Well, actually, the psychologist or psychiatrist can become within you that sense of spirit, that spiritual voice, that the Holy Spirit that's within all of us, that breath of God. And I really believe that if we open ourselves to that voice, it's amazing how quickly we can, how much more, how much less rearrangement of furniture we need to give to other people, and more of the trust that is planted in our heart of knowing that all things work out for the good of all, you know. And so that is something that I think I was born with. I was born with that knowing, and it was engraved in me when I was about 10 years old, 9 or 10. It was a homily I heard from a priest who said that some people complain that they don't have nice shoes to wear with their new outfit, but if you look at your neighbor, they may not have feet. And so it taught me at a very early age, gratitude is key. So let's talk about gratitude when it comes to healing the spirit, the cellular memory. How can we use a tool, that particular tool, to help circumvent the emotions we don't even know that are going through us?
Yeah, well, yeah, gratitude is a very good healing tool if you use it the right way. You know, and don't the Apostle Paul said, "Pray unceasingly," and a lot of people think that he spent his whole life on his knees, but that's not true. You know, we knew he did a lot of things. His primary profession was mending fishing nets and tents and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so when he said pray unceasingly, he was saying two things. He was saying when you're walking through life and you experience a challenge, you don't say, okay, I'll work on this for a day, a week, a month, or a year, and if I can't resolve it, then I'll go to God in prayer and see if God can help me with it. No, you go immediately to God in prayer and ask God what you should do about it. But also, praying unceasingly means being continually mindful of the blessings that God's pouring upon us every day. And so when you experience something that's kind of out of the ordinary, not expected, it's a benefit to your health and to your life. You don't wait till Thanksgiving next year to thank God for it. You stop at that moment and thank Him. So it's praying unceasingly, and so that's the way we need to do it. I have patients do an exercise. Those that are chronically ill do an exercise every night at bedtime, and so the exercise looks like this. They take out a blank piece of paper and they write quickly everything that they want to on that piece of paper that were the negative events of that day. Okay. So, the things that they never want to have happen again. And so they write all that stuff down hurriedly and then probably read it out loud so they can hear it also. Okay, because sometimes we need to make sure that we're entraining enough of our brain into the memories of that event so that we can actually truly get rid of it. And then after they've done that, then they tear it up in little tiny pieces, or if they have a shredder, they just drop it in the shredder. But then after that, they pick up a lined notebook, and the outside of that notebook says "Good Diary." Okay, good diary. And then they open up to the next clean page in the diary, and they go to the top of that page, and right on that top line it says day of the week, month, and year. Okay. So then they start writing all the things that happened that were good that day below that, and they write that in enough detail so if they open that book up 10 years from now, they'll be able to read that and know exactly what happened that day. Okay. So they do that faithfully every night. Write the good diary, the negative stuff on a single piece of paper, and then throw that, tear that up, throw it away, shred it, and then get out the good diary and write in that. And so this is the principle. We know that statistically speaking, the average child hears the word no 100 times for every time they hear the word yes once. You think we might go into adulthood a little bit negative? Yes. Okay. So if you can see this as the balance, you got the negatives over here at the high level, and the good things, the positive things, that over here at the low level. And so every night at bedtime, what you're doing is you're dumping out some of the no's, and building up the yeses. Building up the yeses, dumping out the no's. Building up the yeses, dumping out the no's. Building up the. So at some point, when those are equal, the probability of spontaneous healing is pretty high. If you never get to where your yeses exceed your no's, it's almost inevitable that you're going to get healing at every level: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual.
So. I like that. And so you're saying that this is an exercise you have people that are really ill, that are terminally ill, is what I'm thinking that you said, and it helps with their releasing.
Yeah. Now, if you're not ill yet and you don't want to get ill, then you start doing this before you become ill.
It's preventative medicine. There you go.
Yeah. Prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? And also prevention is worth a pound of cure.
I've been journaling since I was 5 years old. And I used to write love letters to God. I didn't know it was journaling, but I used to write love letters to God, and I would fold it up and I'd put it in my nightstand. And I don't know what happened to all those papers. I wish I would have saved them to see what I was writing about at the time. But and when I say I love to journal, I've been journaling. I write, especially when I can't articulate how I'm feeling. Writing also helps me tremendously to just get it out. And so what happened was that once I think it was in 1997, 1998, around that time frame, we started a small group at our home, and the church had asked us to start a gratitude journal, start journaling. Mm-hmm. And once I started doing that, it brought my memory of when I used to do this as a child. And let me tell you, it's very, very important. It's a very important tool, and it's free. I mean, other than the paper that you buy or the spiral notebook that you buy, it is probably better than going to therapy, in my opinion, because you really get to not only just you get to see what's really inside of you, because it's amazing. People tell me all the time, well, what am I going to write about? Just trust the process. Trust the process. Do you suggest that they think of a topic, or just let it all come out? Or should you, is the topic of everything that went bad and everything that goes good?
Yeah, on the single page, they write everything that they don't ever want to have happen again, don't ever want to think about again. Okay, so that they can get that out of themselves. Okay, because we tend to build up those negative thoughts and memories in our mind and in our cellular memory to the point where it makes us physically ill. So you want to get that out, and then you want to write in the journal things that you want to remember forever, and you want to after you write it down. And each time you write something good down, you want to try to understand and recognize that God had a role in that. Okay, and so you say, "Thank you, God, for this, whatever happened." And then if some person was involved in giving you a blessing that day, then you write their name down and you say, "This person at the store gave me a blessing by doing this for me or saying this or whatever," and realizing that oftentimes that is also coming from God indirectly through them to you. Okay, and so once you have done that for a time, and you're having a really bad day, you go find your good diary in the middle of the day, and you open it up, and you read back some of the entries that you put in there, and you'll be amazed at how quickly that lifts your mood. So you're actually not having a deficiency of a pharmaceutical antidepressant at that moment, but you're just failing to recognize the goodness of God and the blessings that you've had from God directly or indirectly. And it's really important to read these things out loud. The Bible says faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. It doesn't say faith comes by reading or listening, but faith comes by hearing. And so you're speaking it aloud so that you can hear it. And so it comes out from one part of your brain via the speech, but it goes back into a different part of your brain through the hearing.
Interesting. It's interesting. But you're the reading. I remember my children's pediatrician would say, when you're little, you learn to read, and when you get older, you read to learn. And so it's so important that we take all our senses that will help us remember, because I really do believe that our memories are very poor at certain times. Like we could have, I call it I'm as good as my last basket syndrome. I remember watching basketball with Robert, and I remember Nick Anderson. He did an amazing job, but at the last second, he had to throw in 3 free throws and we would win. And he didn't throw one in. And this wonderful guy who was an incredible megastar for the Orlando Magic, after that, he had all this like fear and apprehension and never was the same again. But nobody ever talked about how great he was prior to that moment. And he was still great at that moment. We forget. And so what I love about your exercise is remembering the good in our lives. And I thank my God, you thank your God, we thank our God. But there are people, and especially in today's world, we're growing up in a godless society. So at what point do they turn to something or anything and say thank you for that, other than themselves? Let's talk about, how do you embrace this release and this gratitude and this awareness if God is not your God? Yeah.
Well, if you don't believe there's a God, then you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind. Okay. Because there is proof all around us that there is a creator. On one of my PowerPoint slides, I have a picture of 36 butterfly wings that were photographed somewhere on the planet. And every one of the letters of the alphabet, A through Z, and the numbers 0 through 9 are on a butterfly wing somewhere on the planet. One of my friends who runs a mission field down in Pucallpa, Peru, was a butterfly collector, and he said that he had butterfly wings that went from 10 to 99. Okay, so that's another another what is it, 90 different butterfly wings with numbers on them. So did that evolve out of pond scum? Yeah. So there's 400 things about the Earth and where the Earth is in the solar system that allow life on Earth. Okay, 400 things just randomly happened. Yeah, right.
But you know what? And I understand that, and I'm just going to play this role because I've coached many that do not have that connection with God. They just do not have that connection. I believe they have the connection. They just don't know the name. They're taking it for granted. And so I often talk to them about, okay, well, if God is too much of a stretch, how about love? How about love? Because I did a show. I used to have like a series called Breaking Down the Walls of Religion. And in the series, I interviewed different people from different denominations. I would go and worship with them, and I would learn about what their traditions were. I included an atheist, and I wanted to find what we had in common. And what we had in common was love. They talk about love. They understand love, and so I said, oh, that's what God is. God is love. We have the same belief system here, because I was trying to create something. And then when we went to the commercial break, she said to me, well, my love is different than your love, because I was trying to find commonality. And so how about love? Instead of saying God, can we substitute? Because I don't believe God cares what we call God, as long as we call on God. Can we call that God love? Because God is love. Would that help somebody?
Yeah. In the Bible, 1 John 4, 10 or thereabouts has a verse that says God is love. And so there's truth to what you just said. But most people that speak the English language don't have a clue what love really is. Okay, because we say, I love this pizza. I love this car.
I love my pen.
yeah. Or I'm going to make love, which means I'm going to actually express my lustful feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. So love, what we're talking about here is unconditional love, sacrificial love. Yes. The type of love that Jesus expressed for us when he chose to die on the cross for us. So that's hard to imagine. That if you have a child, that you would be willing to allow your child to go to the pain, through the pain and suffering of hanging on a cross to die for somebody else's sins. Mm-hmm. That's mind blowing, actually. But there's a book written years ago that is called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Okay, so if you analyze that, really that's actually very true, because there's so many things that prove that there is a creator of the universe, and that creator's name is Yahweh. You can go back and look at the scriptures. The word for Jehovah or Yahweh is in the Old Testament 7,000 times, but the people that translated into English were able to get rid of all but 4 of those. Okay,
well, they got rid of a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah, so I think it's important to recognize that yes, that God does appreciate it when we do recognize what his real name is. Yod He Vav He is the 4 letters that make up the name that's should be in the Bible 7,000 times. But it's a challenge to try to develop the relationship with the creator of the universe, because you can't see or touch the creator of the universe, but you can see his working everywhere you look. Yeah. And unless you're, as I said, blind and dumb.
Well, but you know what? You can walk around and not see the miracles around you. I mean, I walk around every day and I see, the blessings and okay, when I say the word blessings, many people think of blessing as something that is bestowed upon you that's good. But sometimes I see the blessing in the tragedies that happen to us, the blessing. For example, I say this in my workshop, and I've said it before in the classroom, that had it not been for the housing crisis, which was very difficult for Robert and I and our family and many people too, I wouldn't be talking to you guys today, because it was a set off a series of events that brought me here. So I look at blessing as anything that God feels that, like, if something that I look at is, oh, this is horrible, but if God is presenting it to me, I always say, oh, okay, well, I need to, once I get over my tantrum, I need to sit and say, thank you for this, because it's going to lead to something wonderful. And that is the kind of faith that helps us get rid of some of the horrible things that are happening in the world today, or that happened to that child. And, Dr. Cowden, they say that God becomes our first image of our parents. And if there are parents that are very abusive, and I could see why some people choose not to embrace a love of God, because they never experienced it. Their love of God, or their expression, or their first impression of God, which is our father or our mother, was abusive or judgmental, or wasn't there for them. And so in a situation like that, it's not about being dumb or blind, it's about not knowing, and I know that eventually God will get us all. God will get us all. But in a situation like this, where somebody grows up in an abusive situation, they're trying to survive, how do we get them, or how do they get to stop and just breathe in the miracles, breathe in the goodness, breathe in, all this? So share a little bit about that, because everybody's carrying their cross.
Yeah. You've finally gotten to the most important topic. When there is no such thing as a perfect parent. All parents are imperfect, and imperfect parents, have imperfect children, and imperfect children become imperfect parents. So, that's a fact. Now, just because you had an imperfect parent doesn't mean there isn't a perfect parent in the world. Okay, and that perfect parent is God. And if you really make an effort to study who God is and what God has done for us, you'll actually come to realize what I say is true. But there's an article on my website, drleecowden.com, called "What is Spirituality?" And so I would challenge everyone that's listening to go read that article, and then see if it changes your attitude at all, okay, about anything spiritual. But anyway, we need to be willing to forgive. If you're not willing to forgive, then we cannot have health, peace, joy, love, and all the other things that are dependent on that. Okay. Now, a lot of people say, well, that person did such terrible things to me, I'm justified in holding on to my anger toward them. And I would say, okay, so if you hold on to your anger toward them, are you hurting them? No. I say, well, are you hurting yourself? Yes. You're hurting your liver, you're hurting your gallbladder, you're hurting your bile ducts, you're hurting your ability to detoxify, you're building up toxins in your brain, blah, blah, blah. You're harming yourself by holding on to the anger. So is that a good plan? No, it's not a good plan. So what do? You make a choice. You make a choice to forgive. Okay? You make a choice to forgive. Forgiveness is a choice. It's not something that happens spontaneously. You have to say, I don't want to hold on to this anger anymore. I realize that it's not benefiting me at all. To hold on to my righteous indignation. I'm going to get rid of this anger because I know it's harming me. It's destructive in many ways. So what you do is you say, okay, I realize that I've got a lot of energy charge in my cells from the emotion of anger related to that person, and I don't think I could say I forgive you enough times to ever let go of the anger that I have toward that person. So what you do is you go by yourself out to someplace where you're not going to be disturbed, you're not going to disturb anyone else, and you close your eyes and you visualize the face of that person that's wounded you, harmed you, and you start shouting at them as if they're there. Obviously, they're not. It's just you in the air that you're shouting at. But you shout so that you can shake loose from your cells the cellular memory of the anger sufficiently so that at some point after that, you'll be able to forgive and forgive completely. Okay. Now, usually when you do that exercise, it's best to go through a laundry list in your mind and write down the names of all the people that you need to shout at when you're out there shouting. If you're unable to move, you have ALS, you've had a neck injury and a paralysis below the neck. You can do this shouting that I'm talking about in your room, in your house. You just try to put a pillow up to your face and shout into the pillow so nobody else can hear it. But you don't want to be inhibited by being concerned that somebody else is going to hear what you're shouting. Okay. If you have no voice left, you can shout in your mind. And if you can make any kind of sound at all, then make a sound, because it's a vibration that it shakes loose from our cells the cellular memory of the anger that's trapping us and causing us to not be able to release the unforgiveness. So anyway, you go out to if you go someplace to do this, you shout at the person that's most distant to you, the person that you're not related to, the first school teacher that humiliated you in front of the class, the first girlfriend or boyfriend that jilted you, the first friend that stabbed you in the back, figuratively, etc. And you shout at them first, because it's easiest to shout at people that you're not related to. And then you work your way through those non-relatives till you get to the distant relatives. Then you work your way through the distant relatives till you get to the closest relatives. The last people other than yourself that you're going to shout at is mom and dad. Okay. And even if you thought you had a great mom or a great dad, you shout at them anyway. Mm-hmm. And the reason that you do that is because typically most people perceive that they have one parent that's an ogre and the other parent that's a saint. And what they don't realize until they start this process is that they have anger toward the saint because the saint didn't protect them from the ogre. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so then they shout at their parents, and they need to shout at them at all of their ages. So the youngest that you can remember, mom or dad, whichever one you're going to do first, and then shout at them at what you were angry about at that age. If they punished you for doing something you shouldn't have done, at that time, you didn't say, "Oh, thank you, mommy and daddy, for punishing me so I can grow up to be a fine, upstanding young man or woman." Mm-hmm. You become angry at them, but you don't vocalize your anger, because you say, "If I vocalize anger, I'll get punished again." So you just stuff your anger, and it's stuffed down inside you somewhere. But anyway, you keep shouting at that youngest age until there's nothing left. Then you go to the next stage, the next stage, the next stage, until you're up to present age, and then when you finish shouting at parents, then you shout at yourself the same way. You close your eyes, see yourself as if you're looking at yourself in a mirror, and you shout at yourself at whatever you're angry at yourself about for the first thing that you ever did that caused you to be angry at yourself. And then the next stage, and the next stage, and the next stage, and the next stage, all the way up to present age. And then it's time to forgive. So you forgive yourself first at all those ages, your parents next, all of their ages, and then all the other people in your life in the reverse order. And I usually finish the whole process by a prayer. If you have a belief in God, you say, "God, I'm sorry for the anger and frustration I've had towards myself and all these other people. Please forgive me for that anger, and please replace the anger that was in me with your love, joy, and peace." Okay.
That's beautiful. And how long is this process that you take?
Some people can do it in a couple hours. Some people it takes 4, 5, 6 hours.
Wow.
So make sure you don't eat food before you go. You can have a piece of fruit if you want to, but nothing hard to digest. And you take water with you, because you're going to get thirsty shouting.
Well, and you'll probably, by the time you finish all the shouting, you're probably hoarse, and you won't be able to do a lot of shouting after that. But this is I'm with you there. I think that forgiveness is key. Many people say to me, "Well, if I forgive, I'm condoning their behavior." And I always say that there's no correlation between forgiveness and trust. Just because you can acknowledge that something happened to you, but not that it was okay. It wasn't okay for them to hurt you, but it did happen. And so we're acknowledging that it happened, and that it's I don't know who said this, but it's like lack of forgiveness, not forgiving someone is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. And I thought that that's a very great depiction of the importance of forgiveness. And I spend a lot of time. Forgiveness is a very important thing. And I don't know if I told you this, Dr. Lee, but when I finish the class, I wish people love, joy, peace, and unexpected abundance, or peace, love, joy, and whatever I say, the order I say it. That was my story of forgiveness. I was very quick to forgive people, because, there were, things were not that big a deal. I don't hold grudges, but at this point in my life, something had happened that was so big that I was holding on to. I was angry. I was ruminating about it. And after a while, it started affecting my body. I couldn't sleep at night. I was beginning to feel joint pain. And I knew that this was affecting me, and that other person who had hurt me was not even not a care in the world. And so I decided to ask God to give me a spirit of the willingness to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started wishing that person peace, love, joy, and unexpected abundance. And at first it was like, I wish him peace. It was like that. But then after 3 years of going through that process of every time I thought of that person, I went through this ritual of wishing them and replacing the anger into giving them love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. After 3 years, I found myself in a gathering with that person, and they tried to avoid me, but I honed in on them like a missile. And I went up to them and I hugged them and I gave them a kiss, and we even ended up dancing together. And so the point is that it's doable. It may take a time. It may take more than 2 hours, more than 3 hours, or whatever, but it is worth doing because we're harming ourselves. Is that not true?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people have a grave physical illness, let's say cancer or ALS or some other condition that doesn't have a great prognosis. And in that case, they don't have 3 years usually to get the anger dumped out. And that's why I strongly advise people to do the exercise that I just described, instead of trying to do it the way you did it. Okay, the slow way will get you there, but may not get you there before you go to the grave.
Oh no, it happened. It happened to me. It started changing my body right away. I just hadn't seen the person for 3 years. So for 3 years, I had been doing the work on myself, and that's why I was able to do what I did. But had I done it, had I not done the work, I would have been dead, because I would have self-imploded, which is basically what happens to us when we choose not to forgive. And I always say, Dr. Lee, that when we want to forget, like they'll say, I won't forget this, and I won't forgive, and I won't forget. I always say that is like the beginning of dementia, because the body will honor us. It will say, oh, you want to forget this? Okay, well, then you'll have to also forget your childhood, or you'll forget your children, or you'll forget everybody. It's not discerning of what it's going to forget. So can you address this aspect of I won't forgive and I won't forget? And at what point do we know it's been totally released?
Yeah, well, we're trying to do all of that with our own natural power, and that's usually a mistake, because it'll take a lot longer to be accomplished if you work at it only on your own power. But if you finally recognize that there is a God, and that God loves you, and that God wants better things for you, then you can call upon God to do this, help you with this. Before you do go out and do a visualization shouting, if you do have a relationship with God, you say, God, I want to do this shouting in order for to get to the point where I can truly, completely, permanently, and totally forgive. And so when you do that prayer, then you're not doing it on your own power. You're getting the assistance of the Creator of the universe to help you with it. And you'll know that it's a completed process when you can then pray to God and say, God, please bless this person physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, financially, and every other way, and not have any uncomfortable feeling in your body when you pray that. If you can't pray that, and if you have that uncomfortable feeling, you haven't finished. You got to go do some more shouting and forgiving.
That's how you know. That's what I'm hearing you say. That's how you know. If you get that in your gut, it's time to bless that person even more, because what we wish onto others will be returned to us. So if we are cursing that person, curses will return to us. But if we bless them, and that was my motivation, I wanted to be blessed through this. And by wishing that person love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance, and not only help me release this whole, story and rewrite the story, because that's part of me being here today and being a coach today and being all those things, rewriting the story so that it no longer affects me. And when I tell the story, it's the story of my journey. It's not the story of someone who did harm me. It was the story of my journey of acceptance and forgiveness. And I truly believe that when God wants you to learn a lesson, the people show up. So if God really wanted me to learn forgiveness, God really put those people in my life. And so now I know that I can forgive and that I choose to forgive. And so it's a really very crucial and central part to health. It is so important. And so this is what we talk about here in the classroom. I've got to acknowledge my sponsors and make sure that you guys go to whenyouneedafriend.com and check out the website. While you're there, please subscribe, like, and follow. Share this video with everybody you know. Let them start this journey of forgiveness as well, or a journey of releasing that cellular memory that Dr. Lee Cowden has articulated so beautifully. And so go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please subscribe. Also, like and follow me on all social media, and check out my sponsors. Because without them, there would be no classroom. They help the classroom a lot. And so please support our sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom. Last, you could go to the Shop Now bag, and you can look at products that will help you heal naturally from head to toe, even pain, doing it naturally without medications. And also, I want you to make sure that you click on the, you can also help us through becoming an enrolled student in the classroom. And whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, or a one-time donation, whatever you can give for your time, your talent, treasure, everything is very much appreciated. You can go to whenyouneedafriend.com and check out the workshops that we have that you can purchase and work with yourself. And we go through this process of whatever it is that you're looking for. And so check those out as well. We did, Dr. Lee Cowden and we did the M3 Detox Experience together. And he was the one that guided us through the whole process, the whole 12 weeks. So go check out the M3 Detox Experience if you've ever been exposed to mold, metals, microbes. He did an incredible job at helping us release, and it was a wonderful experience for all of us. You can also go to drleecowden.com. That's DRLEECOWDEN. If you go to the my blog and you click on his name, it'll take you straight to his website. Dr. Lee Cowden, as I mentioned before, teaches so many people and these new tools, because if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So Dr. Lee Cowden gives them a lot of new tools for their toolbox, and so that they can be better teachers for all of us. And so you can go to also acimconnect.com. Dr. Lee is going to be doing an event in Dallas, Texas on November 10th and 11th. So if you're interested, go to his website and check it out, sign up, register, and continue to learn and grow. So Dr. Lee, I'm so grateful every time you come on. We have 5 minutes left in the classroom, and I know that we could talk about this for 3 or 4 days with nonstop, but what are some of the key things, the key lessons, principles that we need to take today from health and emotions?
Yeah, well, just one thing about the ACIM,
Okay.
that information about the workshop will be on there sometime the next week or two. It's not on there yet. So just register as a, somebody that, like
Subscriber.
us,
Yes, a subscriber.
and then you'll get information about it. Yeah. So, the, in the last, I practiced medicine for about 35 years. I retired in 2019 from patient care and continued to do education only. But in that period of time, I saw hundreds of patients with advanced diseases, cancer, neurodegenerative disease, and so on. But of the patient that had those severe advanced diseases, I never saw a patient in that period of time that didn't have anger as a significant contributor to their condition. Okay, so that's a really important thing I just said. If you have a chronic condition and it's a severe one, you probably have anger that you have to resolve in order to get well. Now, there's also what I call an entanglement of emotions. An entanglement of emotions means that somebody wounded you, and because you felt anger, you also at the same time felt fear that it was going to happen again with somebody else, or sadness because it damaged the relationship permanently or whatever. And so you have a ball, it's kind of like a ball of string that's been wound up very quickly, very rapidly, and you can't find where the end of the string is to unwind it. So in the natural, you pull a loop of string that you see hanging out there, and the ball gets tighter. Okay. And then you pull another loop and it gets tighter still. And you say, okay, I'm not having good success here. Then that's when you go to God in prayer and say, God, which one of these do I pull to get this thing to loosen up and open up and be able to get rid of the physical disease that's attached to it? And God says, oh, this one over here. So you pull that one over there, and all of a sudden it gets a little looser. And then which one next, God? Then this one over here. So you're not doing it in the natural anymore. You're doing it in the spiritual realm. And so, you hear that quiet, soft voice of God, or you actually have a thought pop into your head, or you have a gut feeling that you're supposed to do something. And the more you dwell on that thing, the more peace you get. That's God speaking to you. Mm-hmm. And so then you just follow God's lead, and God won't lead you astray. He'll lead you down the right path.
Always, always, always. Dr. Lee, what does anger, because we've talked about this before, the classroom, but for the people that are listening today and that will listen in the future, how does anger affect the immune system as far as when it comes to suppression?
Oh, yeah, very, very significant suppression of the immune system as a result of that. A lot of the immune factors are actually produced in the liver, and when you hold on to anger, you accumulate physical toxins from the environment, mostly in the liver, and so then the liver becomes so toxic that it can't produce those immune factors, and also can't clear out the toxins that we accumulate each day from food, water, and air. And so those toxins pile up in other parts of our immune system, like the thymus, which is a very important part of your immune system, like the intestine, which is a very important part of the immune system. And so secondarily, a lot of other immune organs are affected, your spleen, your lymphatic system, and so on. And, pretty soon you're so overloaded with toxins because of the fact that you only had anger that you stop being able to function properly.
Well, I tell you what, I heard once someone say that 5 minutes of anger reduces your immune system 8 hours. And I'm thinking, who's angry for 5 minutes? So sometimes this anger can go on and on and on for a long period of time. And so I love the tips that you've given us today. I'm praying that everybody will start praying for a willingness to forgive, a willingness to be grateful for everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm just grateful, Dr. Lee, that you have been such an inspiration in my life, and I know in the life of many. And so I want to encourage all of you to go to drlee, Lee, Cowden.com and start the process, your journey of rewriting the story. Thank you, Dr. Lee. You're an amazing man. And every time, there is nothing you can't, I'm saying this in a negative, so much because you trust the source who gives it to you. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yes, and please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Lee Cowden wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. I love your evers. Hold on.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, guys, it's up to you now. Share this video with your friends, like it, subscribe to the channels, do everything you can. Dr. Lee, are you on Instagram or Facebook? Can people find you in anywhere other than your drleecowden.com?
Nope.
Okay, so they can only find you at drleecowden.com and acimconnect.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys know what to do. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation with Dr. Lee Cowden. Please share this video with your friends and people that maybe you've not been speaking to for a long time. And so maybe start the process and say, I want to reconnect, or just start the forgiveness process. Just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you need to bring them back into your life. That's called trust. That's trust. And it takes a long time to build that trust, but you can still forgive, right? So we will see you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Lee.